Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode in our series of shorts, 10 Reasons to Invest in Indonesia. In this episode, we'll be going into the 8th reason out of the 10 reasons. If you haven't listened to parts 1 to 7 of this series, we recommend tuning into that before listening to this podcast. Otherwise, let's get into reason number 8, which is that there are more exits possible today. Maybe you both can have more knowledge or insight as to what that means.
Well, I guess what that means, people invest money into a company, and it obviously grows and evolves, and eventually it gets possibly publicly listed on the stock exchange, and it gets offered out to a larger money market. So that entire structure, I think Indonesia in the stock exchange of Jakarta is already one of the biggest and fastest growing in the world. It's obviously far off from the Wall Street and whatever, but the changes and the ease of doing this is coming along more and more. The Indonesians are also becoming much more aware of that opportunity to drive the business. So it's not just venture capital and foreign capital coming in, it's also a lot of domestic money and opportunities as well.
Yeah, you mentioned in the article that from 2012 till 2017, Jakarta was the number one frontier city worldwide by number of venture capital deals. And I don't know why this is not more well known in the world. And then there's been, this is something that, it is probably pretty obvious, but $3 billion in investments that went into Indonesian startups, which we mentioned earlier too. Things like Gojek, Tokopedia, Traveloka, Bukalapak, these are Indonesian-based startups that have reached, international levels of recognition.
Yeah, I think the strongest example of that really is Gojek. Gojek is a homegrown business, a homegrown industry, which is now an international business and an international industry, and they've moved from being the motorcycle taxi people through to, they offer a huge number of different things that you can do off a mobile phone, especially in Jakarta,
I think Gojek's entire motto is solving any problem, something about solving problems, whatever problems you have digitally.
Yeah, you can do shopping, you can have people come and clean your house, you've got massages, you've got, go cars, and you've got go trucks, and you've got go everything. They're moving into more. They're not stopping. They're not sitting on their laurels. They're moving into more and more and more and more. They're a great example.
I think you see more and more of these attempts too, that it's actually institutions or funds and investment funds that comes together to attract young entrepreneurs, good ideas, evaluate them, and then push them forward to create these economical drives too, and then exit and gain. But also obviously the kids and young generation that sits on all these ideas and concepts too will benefit from that and get their ideas and concepts driven forward.
I think what's also great about that and these startups is that they support and mobilize the people who might not necessarily have a voice here, especially Gojek, who kind of use the drivers who, you didn't think so much as in the middle class society, and now they're making their way up. And so that kind of is mentioned in this point as well, that there's many local venture capitals supporting impact investments, and almost half of their investments supporting or financing the unbanked or underbanked population, which is a very, maybe not very unique, but it's a huge thing in Indonesia, right? We have a lot of population kind of living in the...
I think that's the biggest challenge for Indonesia, and possibly a threat to Indonesia, is the big masses and how you lift up the big masses. And this is a perfect example of how that is possible to do, through the Gojeks and the different opportunities, these other platforms, trading platforms where people can go in and offer, almost any kind of products, and reach a much larger market. Now you're seeing a lot of this being focused on Indonesia, but eventually this will start reaching international markets too. And the little man and woman in the street can have a decent living, and therefore will, have a growth and support Indonesia forward.
Just a quick note, though, that an important point about exits in Indonesia is that it requires patience.
Yes.
Probably better to assume that it's going to take 7 to 10 years,
Yeah.
which you mentioned in the point.
Yeah.
So,
But in the big scheme of things, that's not such a long time.
yeah. So make sure to take a look at our blogs on all these top 10 reasons where we outlined all the points in www.sevenstonesindonesia.com, or if you want to know more detail, there's also Thierry Sanders' Mekar article of the top 10 reasons to invest in Indonesia. Thank you so much for your insight, Terry and Andy, and thank you for all you listeners for tuning in to this episode in our series of shorts as part of the larger series 10 Reasons to Invest in Indonesia. Stay tuned for the next episode to find out reason number 9 of the 10 reasons to invest in Indonesia.